Good evening. I'm Lucy with the Arc of Northern Virginia, and we're so excited to have you all here for our 2025 Candidate Forum series. Without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Sharon and Connor Cummings to welcome us.
Thank you, Lucy. Welcome to the 2025 House Congressional Forum on Developmental Disability Issues. We are happy to have candidates running for districts in Vienna and Loudoun. We want to thank the ARC of Northern Virginia, the Autism Society of Northern Virginia, Family Run Group Homes of Virginia, Moms in Motion, Rev Up Virginia, Spark, Brain Injury Services, NAMI of Northern Virginia, our stomping ground, HOSES, JCC, DidLake, OSG, and Autism Community Alliance. Special thanks to CRI for supplying the interpreters and to Nancy Hemingway for providing the video stories. Also, a thank you to each and every one of you watching live now or watching it taped at a later date. Now, I am proud to introduce my son, Connor, who will say a few words on the logistics, and then our amazing Lucy Beadnell, who is our moderator for the 90 minutes.
My name is Connor Cummings. I am a self-advocate and proud to be autistic. Please remember that this is a sensory-friendly forum. This is not a debate. Talk about what you can and have done for individuals and families with disabilities. Share your disability experiences and plans. If elected, please concentrate only on you. Let the other candidates concentrate on themselves while you talk all about you. Please, no speaking at the same time or interrupting each other. No raised voices and no name calling. Thank you for respecting the sensory-friendly instructions. This is your opportunity to answer our questions and to hear our stories, not just today, but every day you are in office. To all of you who are watching, these candidates are here because they care. Thank you for being here to respectfully listen to all candidates. This is our opportunity to hear their disability platform, to help ensure that our representatives include us in the decision making. Not just to mention, but the seat at the table. November 4th or prior, you could vote for the candidates that you feel are best for your needs and supports. Remember to always vote because our voice matters. Now here is Lucy to start the questions.
Thank you, Connor. I love how hard you are to follow. So we will go ahead and move over to giving our candidates a chance to give us an opening statement. And tonight we'll be hearing from candidates for the 26th district. Omar Butt is here with us. For the 28th district, Delegate David Reed is here with us. And I wanted to note that Janet Geisler, who's running in the same district, suffered a medical emergency today and had planned to be here, but will reach out with other times with policy information to share. From District 29 with Delegate Marty Martinez and candidate Scott Thomas, and District 30 with Delegate Gary Higgins. We wanted to give everyone 2 minutes at the beginning here to talk a little bit about themselves so we know who you are and any background you have working with disability issues personally, professionally, or beyond. Thank you all so much for being here. And candidate Butt, you're up first.
Can someone confirm first if they can hear me?
We sure can.
All right, great. First of all, thank you so much for hosting this. My name is Omar Butt. I am the delegate candidate nominee for House of Delegate 26, and I'm very happy to be here. This subject is very personal to me. My mother, may God rest her soul in peace. She passed away last year. She spent over 20 years in disability. And I've seen her struggles, I've seen her pain in different phases, and I've seen her strength in that phase of 20 years. And she was about my age when she suffered. So I know firsthand how important this is. and sorry, um, how it can be viewed differently from outside. I'm not one of those who says that, I've been there, done that. That's why I know better. I know how it feels. In my case, I have been there, done that, but I think it shouldn't take to that point for you to understand how it feels like. So we need to continue to have empathy and find ways to give cater and support to the disability community. They're as much a member of our society as others are. So thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us tonight and sharing a little bit about your personal history. We hear often that until this is part of your life, you may not understand it as well as others. So next up, we have Delegate David Reed. Please, your opening remarks.
Thank you, Lucy. It's nice to be here today, and I appreciate y'all doing this. And we've had a chance to be able to talk, I think, over the last 8 years that I've been in. I do want to share just a little bit of background for myself. I was first elected in 2017. I currently serve on the House Appropriations Committee and the Vice Chair of Transportation, and I also serve on Privileges and Elections. So, two of those, and actually probably all three of them, are things where we're going to be having discussions about how they impact individuals in the disability community. I have been very honored over the last the last years that I've been on the Appropriations Committee, that we have finally been able to fully fund all of the Priority One disability waiver slots that we have available. The wait list, the other thing that we've done is that we have increased the reimbursement rates, but we all recognize that we really do still have a shortage of providers who are able to provide the support for those individuals with disabilities. So that's one of the things that we have to continue to work on. I know that when we talk about elections, it's so very important to us and all of us and our democracy that we be able to provide access to everyone. We've gone from being, I think, the 51st most difficult state to vote up to maybe the 12th easiest. And that's really fantastic because that means that voting is available and more accessible for everyone. There's 45 days of early voting, there's curbside voting, there's ways to be able to allow individuals to be able to express their voice in our democracy. And then the third thing, being on the Transportation Committee, that is something that is so very important about how we go about funding and providing transportation for individuals in society, as well as specifically individuals with disability, to be able to move about, go to and from doctors, and go to and from places of work and employment. So, all of these things that I have been working on for the last 8 years are things that I think touch this community in some way, shape, or form or another. And I look forward to the opportunity to be able to continue to serve House District 28 for another 2 years and be able to build upon the success that we've already had. So thank you, Lucy.
Thanks for being with us. We're so glad you're here. Even if your opening remarks were the perfect spoiler to very many questions that we intend to ask. And next up, we'll have Delegate Marty Martinez. Please join us.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you all for allowing us to be here and do some talking. I have a personal relationship with the Arc of Loudoun. I remember when I was on the town council, and there were issues about the Arc of Loudoun and or the site where the Arc of Loudoun is, the Paxton campus, and we managed to we I had a historic overlay on the property, which stopped the demolition, and we managed to work with the Arc of Virginia to get the Arc of Loudoun established on that campus. I was actually one working with the board of directors at the time, putting together their bylaws, and eventually became a member of the board. And I'm looking forward to participating some more on that. I was just asked if I would like to be back on the board, which I definitely would. And I could go through a long list of accomplishments we had while working on while being part of the board and what Paxton has done. And I am so excited that Paxton now has a new home. And I'm looking forward to working with the group and the board and to continue to provide services for our community and the autistic school and making sure that we get to grow and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you so much on behalf of us and our beloved sister chapter and longtime forum partner, the Arc of Loudoun. We're excited to see them settled in a new space. Candidate Scott Thomas, we're excited to hear your opening remarks.
Good evening, and thank you. My name is Scott Thomas, and I'm running for the House of Delegates for the 29th District. I have been a resident of Virginia over 15 years, with a majority of that time right here in Loudoun. So it's truly an honor to join you this evening for this event. And I want to thank specifically the ARC of Northern Virginia, the Autism Society of Northern Virginia, and Rev Up for their support in all this. I feel a strong connection to driving support and recognition of those with disabilities. I grew up with a father who had Lou Gehrig's disease. So I was daily confronted with the reality of making the most out of my time with him until his death. We went through many trials and tribulations. And although there have been many people in my life where disabilities drove their daily routines, I found a common theme. They just look to be understood, feel respected, and be treated fairly. Across Virginia, and especially in the 29th District, I am committed to creating communities where every individual with a disability can thrive. What I've learned is simple but powerful. When we listen to the voices of individuals with disabilities and their families, and when we work together to remove barriers, entire communities become stronger, more inclusive, and more resilient. I've seen firsthand the importance of connecting people with resources, building partnerships across local and state levels around my efforts with disabled veterans, establishing a enterprise affinity group where we support groups such as Tunnels to Towers, Willing Warriors in our local area here, and making sure that disability policy is not just about compliance, but about empowerment. Together, we can continue to shape Virginia where every person, regardless of ability, has a chance to contribute and succeed. And I look forward to today's discussion and working alongside all of you to ensure that the policies reflect the dignity and worth of every Virginian. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us, Scott. I can't believe we didn't hit on this before, but I also lost my mom to ALS. And if anyone wants a rapid fire lesson in what it's like to navigate disability services, that is unfortunately the way to do it. So I'm going to move us over now into some substantive questions. We're going to start with a question driven by an email I got 48 hours ago. I was laying in bed and we had a longtime friend with Formed Families Forward, a fantastic organization that works with foster, adoptive, and kinship families, reach out to say they were trying to help a family whose adult child with an intellectual disability had been arrested. Did I know some rights, some resources, some attorneys who could help them? And it was such a reminder that they're representative of the national data showing us that about 40% of the federally incarcerated population are people with at least one disability. And we often see people whose disability is manifesting in a behavior crisis who end up with an emergency responder interaction. We would love to know some thoughts you have on how to handle the challenge of knowing that these intersections are going to continue to happen between the disability and police community, but how we make sure that everywhere from our 911 operators to our crisis response teams to our first responding officers are well trained and supported, and making sure they and the individuals with disabilities are safe during those interactions. And Delegate Reed, you're up first here.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I am now unmuted. Thanks, Lucy. And this has been an issue that we have been trying to address at least since 2020, when we have really been embracing criminal justice reform, and we've also been embracing just the entire training process and the training programs that law enforcement go through, and how to be able to deal with and interact with individuals who have disabilities. We've even gone so far as to be able to implement different ways that individuals can have indicators on their licenses or on cards that they can carry with them, so that it would help to inform the law enforcement officer that the person to deal with is has some type of disability, and that would then help them to be able to de-escalate the situation. Because that's where you get into the biggest issues is when something is unknown and then something gets escalated because of the fact that someone is feeling threatened. So what we've got to do is we've got to continue the work that we've been doing. We've got to be able to continue to do a really outstanding job of training our officers and being sure that we are providing individuals with a way to identify that they have a disability, and that can then shape the conversations that they're going to be having with law enforcement. And that is something that we have been working on for the last 6 years, and I'm committed to continuing that work.
Thank you so much for that past work and for your answer. We're going to move now to Delegate Martinez. And as he comes on, I wanted to give a brief moment to note, I did say Delegate Higgins is here tonight, and that is true. But at this exact moment, he is offering live testimony in front of a border commission. So he'll jump in with us as soon as he's able. Delegate Martinez, you on this question about police and disability.
All right, this is a very important subject. I know that in the past, in dealing with our local police department, when I was on the town council, one of the things that we focused on was when police arrive on a scene to de-escalate, to go in there and look at the situation and make sure that they truly understand what happens and or what is going on, and not to just automatically respond with force, but to evaluate the situation, see what they can do. And not only that, one of the things that I really advocate for was to make sure that they have professionals either on call that can come to the scene and help that officer de-escalate the situation. A lot of what I really enjoy going after Delegate Reed because he is so on top of this stuff, and I work with him on these things to make sure that these are things that we can do statewide. I also believe localities need to, those who have their own police departments, like the town of Leesburg, like Loudoun County Sheriff, should have the tools available to them to provide that kind of support in a tense situation. So it is stressful. I'm looking forward to working with I'm on a couple of committees, and one of them is county, towns, and cities, which impact our communities. And I'm looking forward to working with and putting forward legislation that will give the tools to these localities to help them de-escalate these situations, give the training, and so that we can have a collaborative environment on those kind of things. Because it is really important that that our police officers and others recognize the environment that they're entering. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we are going to turn things now over to candidate Scott Thomas. The same question over to you.
Thank you. I have some firsthand experience. This as a prior law enforcement officer for the great state of Texas. I don't want to be put down for that remark, but I was a police officer for many years, dealing specifically with problems with mental incapacity, disabilities in the community. But definitely they're overrepresented among individuals that are arrested or incarcerated or victimized for that matter. Studies right now are talking between 40 and 44% of people in jails are reporting some kind of mental health condition. Even our own surveys here from Virginia show a substantial share of jailed individuals who have mental health needs, and rising behavioral health caseloads is an example of that. Local programs in Northern Virginia, to include, Fairfax, Alexandria, and Arlington, they've all used co-responder and CIT models, or crisis intervention, to help lower arrests and increase linkage to care. But I think we can assist by further embedding some of the ideas presented earlier around law enforcement training, expanding diversion and crisis intervention programs, and ensuring access to advocates and mental health professionals at every stage of the process. The one thing I do have concern with is sometimes the expediency of the police environment does not always equate to that. So the requirement around de-escalation, to Marty's point, is very substantial. I think that's one of the first policy fixes is, better screening and public reporting so we can measure, and target resources to support different localities, because at that point it becomes an economic factor because many law enforcement agencies of smaller towns can't afford those things. So, but these are not isolated issues. They're all connected to a single principle. It's just equity and inclusion, right? Whether we're responding to, issues in the schools or in the streets, it's all about we must protect and empower people with disabilities in our communities.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing that experience and from your past service. We're going to turn the question now over to candidate Omer Butt. Please, your thoughts on this disability and police intersection.
All right, I'm unmuted. Hi, thank you so much, and thank you for the rest of the folks for sharing the thoughts. It is encouraging to see that there has been good work done, and there is passion there to continue to do the good work. And I know as someone who has seen this firsthand, I look forward to working with all of you across the aisle to make sure that we take care of people first rather than politics. Having said that, in terms of the issues, how to make it facilitating, look, one of the things that I encounter and from my personal experience is that we the ambulance service and the people who come to facilitate the disabled, they need to be well trained and have empathy and patience as they're working with these folks. Sometimes for them, it could get, I've seen people getting frustrated that they can't get the response from the person, the kind of response they want or in a timely manner they want. But they need to understand they're not in the best condition to begin with. That's why they're calling for help. So having these folks who are coming in to help a disabled person, it's important for them to have a clear understanding and good training. And I think it shouldn't be a one-time training. It should be a yearly training. So it serves also as a reminder to these folks who are helping that, look, we have a duty to do. This is our job, but part of that job is also that we treat these people with special care. We treat these people with empathy and show emotional support. And that's very important because, when you're in that kind of condition, uh, what you say and how you treat someone makes a huge difference that helps build the morale up. So the great work that has been continuous and that includes having the license plates marked as disabled, having the cards marked as disabled, they definitely help because we need to make that process more easier. So this way, people who need to get those assistance, they have easier way to navigate and attain them. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your answer. And I see that Delegate Higgins has been able to remove himself from one meeting. We know that the job of a delegate's never done and hop in and join us. We are so grateful for you for juggling all those balls tonight, Delegate Higgins. And we would love to give you sort of a combo chance to do a couple of words of introduction and then share your thoughts on some of the challenging intersections we're seeing with the police and disability community and how we make sure everyone stays safe.
Thank you. Just briefly, I apologize for running a little late and for your patience with me, but I am glad to be here today. It's a privilege to be with you. The ARC does great work, and I enjoy and like to work with you on the things that you have going forward. We got a bill passed in the first session about making voting available to individuals with developmental disabilities, and I'm very proud of that. I was glad to work with you on that. I think that was HB 908. We also voted for HB 509, which instructs the State Council of Higher Education in Virginia to study how colleges and universities determine eligibility for accommodations, identity barriers, and recommend uniform process to better serve those with disabilities. And we also supported House Bill 1762 to improve how state agencies administer disability benefits, because navigating the bureaucracy shouldn't be a full-time job for families that already have so much on their plate. So I'm excited to be here tonight and share with you some of my thoughts and listen to yours. And what was the question that you were speaking about?
Sure. The question on policing and its intersection with disability and how we can make sure we're doing good diversion and safety work there.
I would think that we need to make those intersections as friendly as possible to those with disabilities. I believe we need to train and invest more in training for our first responders and dispatchers to ensure that they are equipped to respond to the individuals with disabilities in crisis. Sheriff Chapman does a great job with this here in Loudoun, and I know I've spoken with him specifically about this, and hopefully we can replicate a better job throughout the Commonwealth.
Thank you so much. And we do want to give a huge shout out to the Sheriff's Department in the Arc of Loudoun, who started working together years ago on some great diversion work that really set the stage for some best practices in Virginia. So I'm going to move us now to a question that we get too often. So we'll put you all in the hot seat to respond to it as well. And that's that though we hear often about the national caregiver crisis, we hear from families saying, I still don't know what to do. We know that this is going on, that Medicaid reimbursement rates are so low. I haven't been able to find care. I think often of the Cody family that lived in Western Fairfax on the Loudoun border, and they told me that in 4 years of having authorization for 24/7 awake care for their incredibly medically fragile son, one of 5 kids, out of those 4 years, they had 3 not concurrent weeks of full coverage. We know that this struggle to find caregivers affects our veterans, our seniors aging in place, people with mental health and physical disability needs, and all of us. We would love your thoughts on how we tackle this rate crisis, because we know unless we do, we drive people to institutional settings where care is less person-centered and more expensive. So first up on this question is Delegate Martinez. Your thoughts on the caregiver rate issue?
I'm still recovering from a major back surgery. And my wife decided that she was going to take care of me during that recovery period. She and I have a whole new appreciation for the caregivers and what they can do for people. And I have been talking to a group of caregivers about how they are underappreciated, how the work they do is undervalued, and how we need to figure out a way to make sure that they are taken care of, that they have benefits, that they get paid for the work that they do. For me, I just find it incredible the dedication and service they give to people, and how they go into people's homes and take care of them. I mean, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that the caregiver situation is taken care of, and that they are valued, and that we really make sure that they are not neglected and forgotten.
Thank you so much, and best wishes for a continued recovery. Candidates.
FYI.
Oh, please.
The doctor told me today he doesn't want to see me anymore. I'm okay. Today was my get out of jail card.
Big congratulations. I think we need more good news in the world. So candidate Scott Thomas, we would love your insights here. And I know you mentioned a family connection. I'm sure you know this caregiver challenge personally. Oh, Scott, you're still on mute.
This is an interesting one because it affects more than just the caregiver. It's affecting the individual as well. You know, and for those with developmental disabilities that are also facing issues where they are being waitlisted and having to deal with issues around family-related services and the lack thereof. It's these delays in getting that support, whether it's home care, assistive technology. And by now, we should be to a point where our assistive technology is a lot further along with the new advances in technology that have happened. Behavioral interventions, where people are just being forced into more restrictive settings just because of that lack of community support. But I think if we focus on some possible areas where state appropriations to reduce the times on the slots for assisting people can also assist in different areas with incentivizing service providers in underserviced areas. These will all help drive up the potential for allocation of resourcing and costs to ensure that caregivers are given the appropriate level of training, support, and funding to ensure that resources are made available for people. We can also streamline some of the processes that we have in place that have often been slow to provide these assessments, so that eligible individuals, whether or not, can be assessed more quickly to get these services. So basically, it's just going to all come down to better support for family caregivers, just to help them prevent the burnout while giving them better access to care and service.
The need there is big. And then Delegate Gary Higgins will bring you back up here with this question on making sure we've got right caregivers in place.
Well, in last year's session, we supported these efforts, and we will support them in the future. We also support making it possible for loved ones to receive payments for taking care of those in need, instead of having that money go to institutional settings where sometimes folks are actually worse off. We also need more funding to increase state supplements for these wages and ensure we're getting folks to help those in need. Additionally, I think there needs to be some access to training for these caregivers so that they're better equipped to deal with the situations they're in and properly paid for what they do.
I think that need is big. And then Candidate Omer Butt, you're next.
Still on mute. Can you hear me now?
We sure can.
All right. So apart from the fact that we need to facilitate our caregivers because they play an important role in providing the service directly to the people in need. One of the things I can personally relate with that, as we are providing the training, the having them have some physical strength is also important. Now, how I relate with that is my mother, when she was in the last phase of her life, she had difficulty to get off the bed to take care of natural things. So, but she was heavy in her weight. So the caregivers that would come, they would have a struggle to take care of her or help her and move her around. And we had to change caregivers frequently to find eventually someone who can be strong enough to take care and who's willing to make sure that she's taken care of. A lot of things that are taught in training, and when it comes to apply some of the things that are not applied on a regular routine, people think, the caregivers think that it's not necessary. Well, when in these kind of situations come where the disabled person needs to be lifted or assisted on multiple times, that is not very common to many disabled folks, perhaps. But when it comes for that need, they need to be able to make sure that they're there to do their job properly. So I think one of the things that I would stress on is that as we're providing different trainings to the caregivers, one of the trainings we need to stress upon is that to have the maybe physical strength or some kind of exercise program or some where there can be frequent trainings to as a reminder to them that, what maybe 80% of the things you do on a regular basis with the majority of your clients are important, but the 20% of the things that maybe not needed for majority of your clients are also important when you have that kind of patient. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer, and what a reminder about how we can only be as healthy as our caregivers are. So, Delegate Reed, you're up next here.
Okay, thank you, Lucy. And this is something that we have been grappling with on the Appropriations Committee for the entire time that I've been in, because we have slowly and incrementally been able to get to the point now where we're able to fully fund all of the disability waivers. The problem that we ran into in not this year, but the year before last, is that we recognize that even with funding the waivers, if we didn't hold some money back and actually put more money towards the reimbursement rates, we were going to be doing those individuals and their families a disservice for the very reason, the very example that you provided, where it was going to be one of those things where, yes, you have been authorized and you've been approved, but then the providers aren't being paid enough to be able to provide the services. And this is an issue that we are dealing with across the Commonwealth, not only in the provider rates for disability, but for nurses and teachers and law enforcement. We have a serious issue where we have to make really difficult decisions about where we put the finite amount of money that we have from the state budget. And I like to tell people it's like the budget is about a series of priorities and a vision of what you want Virginia to be. And we have made funding the disability waiver as well as the reimbursement rates a priority, but there is still room for improvement. And that's one of the things that I look forward for us being able to go back, because we've already laid the groundwork to be able to get to a really good point right now where we're fully funding the priority one. That means we can now start looking at the priority two. But then that also means that we have a greater issue with providers. So that requires more funding, and we have to make that a priority.
Thank you so much for that. We got an email from a mom today who, after years, got her daughter on the waiting list and said, what does it mean that I'm on priority two? And it was an interesting time to say, since we've made some progress on priority one, it may really mean something. I'm going to pivot us a bit to an issue that someone mentioned in their opening, and that's about this intersection of guardianship and voting. So right now, if an adult with some significant disabilities is going to need a guardian to help them make really complex decisions about advanced medical care or legal choices, a guardian can be proposed, usually family or friends. And right now in Virginia, unless that guardian in their appointment proactively makes an argument to preserve voting rights for the individual with a disability, they are presumed incompetent to vote, and that voting right can be removed with no discussion. Legislation was introduced this year, 2025, that ensured a discussion around the feasibility of capacity to vote before those rights were removed. That legislation will be reintroduced in 2026, and we would love your thoughts on whether or not you would support that proposal or something similar. And Delegate Martinez, you're up first here.
Thank you. I was really disappointed to see the bill vetoed last year. Having the right to vote and ability to vote is an essential duty that should be made available to everyone. I support all efforts to make it easier to vote, and that means protecting the progress that has been earned or over the past decade surrounding early voting and mail-in voting. Um, that's pretty much it. I'm very supportive of it, and we need to keep moving forward and not give up, and continue to make the effort. Thank you.
Thank you. We certainly love a straightforward answer. And this bill really came out of Northern Virginia when an adult who attends almost every single one of these forums and is very active civically had his dad proposed as guardians to help him with some high-level decisions. And when they got the paperwork back, everyone was surprised to find his voting rights had been taken. So candidate Scott Thomas, your thoughts here.
I believe this is more than just that piece. It's the accessibility, but the evaluation criteria around these individuals that are deemed to be incompetent due to disabilities. I do not think it's fair. There has to be a better evaluation process, and the idea of doing this under guardianship just doesn't make sense to me. So the idea, I would support this, right? This is something that needs to be done, but if we put it into the reality of what the current world does, we're still limiting access, even if they did have access based on evaluation. What's allowing them to get there, right? So there's a digital transformation that has to happen for voting. There is accessibility things that need to happen for voting. It's one of the most essential rights that we have. So it's just still too difficult for them either way. But I think it was hit on a little bit earlier that the polling places are something that aren't always accessible. Transportation is also limited. Absentee options for them, if possible, are confusing or restrictive. Not to mention the fact that things that could be done online tend to have deficiencies because they're not compliant with Section 508 relative to people with disabilities being able to perform these things. So it's more than just the simplicity of passing this one simple piece of it. It's more a holistic view because it's not about politics, it's about participation. So it's about making sure that everyone has the access regardless of their ability, right? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for highlighting a lot of those accessibility issues. We'll give another shout out to Connor Cummings, who gave our opening remarks tonight, who really led the charge a few years ago to expand curbside voting accessibility for the disability community. We'll turn the same question on guardianship and protection of voting rights over to Delegate Higgins.
Thank you. Yeah, I would be happy to support your efforts to reverse this default and stop people with disabilities from automatically having their voting rights removed while entering into a guardianship. I believe the burden of proof should be on the state to remove the rights and not on the individual with disabilities to defend their right to vote.
Couldn't have said it better, and in strong agreement with legal precedent. So we'll turn the same question over to candidate Omer Butt. Your thoughts here on this disability and voting rights intersection?
Listen, your vote is your voice, and taking any ability to vote in any stage of life is taking away your voice. You could be disabled and not have the normal way of living, but that doesn't mean that we take away your voice. Every voice matter. Every vote matters. So facilitating the disabled to be able to vote, it's an absolute necessity. There's no two cents about that. You can change a society's future around by one vote, win or lose. So I'm absolutely on board of making sure that everyone has the ability to vote, who's legally allowed to vote, and how we can have programs to facilitate them so they have the ability to make their voices being heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then last on this question is Delegate Reed. Your thoughts on this bill returning?
Yeah, thanks again, Lucy. I think I mentioned in my opening remarks that one of the things that we've been trying to do since at least 2018, and if not more so in 2020 and 2021, is to be able to expand the ability and guarantee people's rights to vote. And that is something that is so very important to the foundational principles of our democracy. And we now have 45 days of early voting. We have the ability for people to be able to vote from their car if they're disabled and not able to get out and go in. We have increased the ability for access. You can do mail-in voting and no excuse absentee voting. All of these things have been done so that we can make voting easier. And as I mentioned, I think we went from 50 or 51st to being the 12th easiest state to vote. So if this is another item that we need to address, then I am guaranteeing that this is something that we will address because, again, we've already established that this is so important that we're going to continue to work to expand the ability and the ease with which people are able to legally vote.
Thank you so much. And as an interesting anecdote for folks, if you want to know how important voting is to the disability community, despite the very many hurdles and challenges that our candidates mentioned here tonight that make it much harder for folks with disabilities than the typical population to cast their ballot, people with disabilities do vote at the same rate as non-disabled voters. They persevere and find a way, but we never want to put more walls in that path. I'm going to have us turn directions here a little bit toward the employment front. We've heard lots of great problem solving questions here tonight, and this is certainly an area where creativity can take hold. We hear often that small and local businesses in particular are struggling to find and keep employees at all levels, especially at entry levels. We know that for folks with disabilities, especially developmental disabilities, who've historically been unemployed and underemployed in very large numbers, this could be a natural partnership, but we haven't gotten there. What are your thoughts on how we go about making sure that the business community is able to hire this hidden stock of wonderful workers that is the disability community? And then candidate Scott, you're up first here.
Well, thank you very much. We know that people with disabilities are employed at barely half the rate of those without disabilities. And for individuals with more significant disabilities, that gap is even wider. It's not just a number on a chart. That's talent, that's potential, and that's purpose that's left on the sidelines. And we can actually do better. But I was happy to see that I have a family that I'm close with a disabled daughter, and they brought her into what I like to call the CAST program here locally. They're teaching her how to achieve with disabilities, and I find that is an amazing thing. I just wanted to call that out. But and that's what it starts with an opportunity, and we need to build stronger bridges from school to work. So that was the example. So every student with a disability leaves school with real experience, confidence, and a real shot at a career. So we need to expand pre-employment transition programs. We need to focus on creating inclusive apprenticeships and make sure that no one is turned away from a trade or training program because of lack of accommodation. Accommodations are key in all of these roles, but we also must make inclusive hiring the rule, not the exception. It's not a quota-based environment. This means helping employers do what is right, offering tax credits, focus on training support, providing job coaches and assistive technology so that work is not just possible but sustainable. In the commercial world now, we leverage AI that anyone can do, right? So we're saying that we can extend this to people with disabilities. That can't be the option. But independence isn't just about a paycheck, it's also about where you call home. So too many people with disabilities still face those challenges of affordability and accessibility. So we can change that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think those are some great points. And Delegate Higgins, we'll bring you up next with this question about how we can germinate some employment opportunities.
Thank you. I like the model used in Fairfax County where they have a disability services board to help ensure folks with disabilities are fully integrated into the local community and economy. If there's a way to expand that, I'd love to work with you on that. I also support tax credits and tax incentives for businesses to hire more individuals with disabilities where appropriate. I also can tell you that I found where businesses have actually tried to hire folks with disabilities and given it a shot, they have been satisfied with the results. So it's partially getting the word out and working to do that.
I think that is a lot of it. We hear lots of great business to business mentoring stories that have big potential. And candidate, but your thoughts here on the same question on increasing employment opportunities to meet the needs of businesses.
Yeah, I think along the lines of this matter, this question, there has to be some kind of accountability check if these folks who are with these companies who are making the employment available for folks that are disabled. And the question is frequently asked if in all applications that if you have any kind of disability or not. They're, as they're answering the question honestly, but many of the times, some of those folks don't get selected. So at times, people might feel that, especially in the times like this, that yes, employment has been challenging for a lot of folks. Thank God, not so much in Virginia. Obviously, people are there who are having challenges, but as compared to other states, Virginia has been doing great in terms of employment. But if people who are fully capable are they having challenges, and on top of that, if people are disabled, they're overlooked, then there has to be a metrics, a accountability check where these companies are being checked and reported on, and if they're not meeting the standards as they should be punished. And that should be made public. This way, those kind of standards are also passed on to other folks that if we don't follow, then we will get caught. And if we get caught, we will be embarrassed in front of public. So this is not to bring anyone down, whatnot, but this is a way to help the disabled community that, you're not left alone. We're there, and we mean what we say when we say that we're there to look out for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Delegate Reed, your thoughts next on this question on increasing some employment opportunities.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. This has been one of the things that over the time that I've been in elected office that I've really welcomed and found very rewarding to be able to work with different organizations. And I know that the ARC probably does some of this as well, but I'm going to highlight ECHO, which is based out in Leesburg. And I've been out and I've visited them several times and have helped to make introductions, introduced budget amendments for them to help move them forward. But if you think about this, before the pandemic, they were actively engaged with placing adults with disabilities in workforce in jobs around the community, places like Genelia and other places. And then because of the pandemic, they had to pull back. And it's interesting because what they ended up doing was that precipitated them creating their own internal industries. So they now have individuals with disabilities who are making some really fine jewelry. They're making soap and candles. And then over in Old Ashburn, they have a place called, I think it's the Barkery, where they are making dog cookies. And so they are helping all of these individuals develop skills and working and in their own industries, which then become translatable skills to other industries. And so we have to take the models of the things that are working well and then see how we as local government or state government can leverage that to make it better. Because again, we're not necessarily going to be the sole purview of all the good ideas when you look at the things that are being done very well right now. Just how do we take that and expand it to the rest of the community? And so again, it has been so great to be able to see the success of programs like ECHO and understand how that is being so beneficial and helping so many families. And then how do we take that and make more of it? So I think we've got some good models, and I think we've got some good opportunities to do some more with in that area.
Thank you for highlighting some of those great local business opportunities. And the dogs in my house are saying if anyone wants to talk more about the Barkery, they're willing to listen. Those dog biscuits sound pretty great. Delegate Martinez, you're up here with this final question. And if you want to know how important employment is, know that it's the second question people ask after what's your name in the DC area, right? What's your job?
Well, uh, David, Delegate Reed kind of stole my thunder on Echo. I actually have, Echo is a great organization. I've known it ever since I've been on council. That was one of the first things, one of the first small businesses I visit. And not only that, they evolve over what they. I'm sorry, you're over here, and I keep looking at you. But they've evolved over time on the services. I know at one time they were doing mailing stuff for me, and I've used them a few times. Let me quote what their kind of their mission is. Their services are designed to empower individuals with disabilities to participate fully in our community, whether through volunteer work, social activities, or employment. And they have done a wonderful job. And David is right. This is a great model that we should, especially at a state level, uh, use as a building block for more of these small businesses because everybody, you know, I don't, how do I want to say this? I feel better when I'm off the couch working and doing something productive. And that applies to everybody, including people with the disabilities. They all want to do something and be productive and contribute. And Echo has done a wonderful job in doing that. So I, you know, I am a big fan of Echo. I want to continue to support them, but more importantly, I want to see how we can implement their model throughout the Commonwealth so that our gives us more avenues for our people with disabilities to work. And if I can, I'm going to deviate a little bit from the question on this. When we talk about participation and people with disabilities and participation, I've been trying to work on legislation that allows people with disabilities to participate in commissions and committees within the different political entities. The town of Leesburg, Loudoun County, they want to be part of the system. They want to be part of the town. They want to be part of the county. But right now, they can't because of the meeting rules, you know. And so I want to be able to put through legislation that allows remote participation for people with disabilities to be part of these boards and commissions. And I think partner that with unemployment with employment. I mean, you have a real beginning on making sure that we really get value out of our people who want to work and want to be part of the community. And so, you know, and I really do not like the term disabled because they're not, they are very able to contribute and work in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to pull us back in the timeline of life from work all the way back to school. And we're going to talk a little bit about how we know kids with disabilities who are included with peers without disabilities in the school system to the greatest possible degree have much better long-term outcomes. They've got higher standards, support from peers, a focus on abilities and accommodations, and how to make things work. But this is really successful only when we've got teachers and aides who have the right training and higher level education officers and administrators who are making sure that things go well. And I know a lot of us have heard over the last few days that though we always know our schools are struggling to meet the incredibly diverse needs that they have, that there's been a lot of reduction in staff who work on developmental disability services and other kinds of disability accommodations in school. So in light of that tremendous need for inclusion and high quality education, what are your thoughts on how Virginia can move forward to make sure our kids with disabilities get what they need in school? And Delegate Higgins, you're up first here.
Thank you. I think we need to invest more in training for our teachers and our aides, as well as raising teacher pay and investing in investments further in special education. There are a lot of times it's a math problem, and we need to find some more funding for that. I also believe sincerely that inclusion and trying to integrate children with disabilities into the classroom helps them to be accepted, helps them to learn, helps the whole community of children to be familiar with one another. And that's something we should be working towards, more inclusion or as much as possible.
Thank you so much. And we'll turn this question over to candidate Butt. Your thoughts on making sure we've got kids with disabilities included and protected in schools?
As I often say in my speeches, kids are kids. When it comes to that community, we need to handle that with care and facilitate their learning and growth the best way possible because they're the future of our country. And how we do that and how we put any other politics aside is very important. So when we have kids who have special needs, uh, how we make it extra special for them to make sure that they are able to contribute to our society even more, you know, where these kids don't feel left out. Sometimes when kids are feeling depressed or stressed or being left out, there are different kind of trauma they deal with. So we should take care of the base first the best way possible. So as the building is built on, it could have a better future, better career ahead. So absolutely, we need to continue to look into different ways how we can help facilitate our kids in school to make sure that their growth gets an equal opportunity like the other kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll now turn this question over to Delegate Reed. Your thoughts here on high quality inclusive education.
Thank you again, Lucy. I want to go back and I want to just, because you talked about protecting and inclusion, and I want to go back to, I think it was 2018 or 2019, myself and then State Senator John Bell were able to get passed and signed a piece of legislation that prevented the use of restraint and seclusion as a way to discipline children with disabilities in public schools. And that has been a game changer for those children because, again, that was just an unacceptable way to treat children who were having disciplinary problems. So we've been able to make that change. And I just want to highlight also that when we talk about being able to include and to address the teaching, this goes back to the heart of us being able to pay our teachers well. Across the Commonwealth, we have about 3,000 teaching vacancies right now. And that's because they have been historically underfunded, below the national average. We now need to bring those up to the national average, and we need to be able to find a way to pay teachers in areas where we have a high density of children with disabilities so that they can learn how to work with these children to make it a much more welcome environment. So, again, part of it is the things that we've already done to be able to protect the children and to provide guidance and training to the teachers. The second part of it is to be able to fund enough of provide enough resources to be able to hire enough teachers in the places that are needed and be sure that they receive the proper training.
Thank you. And we wanted to give big thanks to your work on that bill to end seclusion and restraint, which is not only life-changing, but life-saving for kids with disabilities. Delegate Martinez, your thoughts here on inclusive education.
Well, the last thing we need to do is go back and return to the old way of thinking that, children with disabilities should be separated. No, they should be inclusive. And I really commend Delegate Reed and Senator Bell on their legislation that helps remove that stigma. Also, it's shown that when, and again, children with disabilities, and I will tell you that the disability part always bothers me because they're not, they can be able to do things. They have feelings. They think. They're smart. We should include them actively in the school community and not just on core subjects, but the elective courses like art and music and even PE. I mean, it takes training to ensure that our teachers are equipped to have this knowledge. but we as General Assembly elected officials should help pro help provide tools for our schools to make it all inclusive and not worry about separation of people with disabilities. It's all about inclusiveness and valuing everybody's potential. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And candidate Scott Thomas, you are able to take it home on this question for us.
I think this definitely comes down to accountability and understanding of need, right? We keep coming across this. It's a funding issue or it's an appropriations issue. We're the people that make it happen, right? And we have things in place under IDEA, right, to talk about having also faith, the free appropriate public education. These things are there for a reason. And it just seems that we are not providing the appropriate measures to ensure that it's being enforced. We also know that all these education outcomes, right, they're also becoming worse for students with disability and access to inclusive practices, right? So what we're seeing in schools now is understaffing, not paid enough. And if no one's there, they just throw a body in the room. I've seen this happen. It happens right here in the community, right? So there needs to be some focus on the consistency of implementation of inclusive practices, covering down on the gaps in assistive technology that we are way past. And I've hit on a few times around technology. Lack of culturally and linguistically competent support. This is a big issue. So it's not only English speaking people that have disabilities. There are multicultural inclusions that need to happen to effectively deal with issues for also minority students. So we need to have policy that effectively deals with caseloads and support mechanisms, inclusive practices, universal designs for learning, which is an important aspect that I think should be approached, because what we need is to stand up as leaders and stand up for these families and protecting the idea, right? The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It's supposed to be ensuring that our schools and training are there for these students and hold the systems accountable, because what I'm seeing is parents should never have to become full-time advocates just to secure a fair education for their kids that is supposed to be guaranteed. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you how many professional special education advocates and attorneys we know got into it by having to learn it personally. So for our last question before closing remarks, I'm going to bring us around to housing. Probably something we all hear about often on the campaign trail. It is very expensive to live in Northern Virginia. And we know for the disability community, where we're experiencing challenges with school, employment, navigating public benefits, income tends to be lower. And the need for safe, affordable, inclusive housing tends to be higher. What are your thoughts on an idea or two the General Assembly could undertake to ensure that people are able to get safe, affordable housing without having to leave the communities they want to be in? And candidate Omer Butt, you're up first on this one.
No, part of being inclusive is also facilitating the communities in different ways, in different areas of need. That is transportation, education, and definitely housing. So in terms of making it, when we make a commitment to facilitate a community which may at times feel like they're left behind, we find creative ways to facilitate, to make sure that they have the means to stay in the area they're familiar with, they have spent their life in. I think it's crucially important that when you are in that kind of position, familiarity and being around familiar people, faces, neighborhoods, it plays a huge emotional impact for people of disability. So how do we make sure that we live up to our words when we say we are committed to the community? Is finding ways how they're able to rent? Are there any discounted programs, or are there any grants that can be available to facilitate them? So it's helping them stay in their neighborhoods or in the local area with some assistance. Like one of the speakers said earlier, when we have the budget, when how we use the budget is important. So I guess the priority lists are made, but we cannot leave behind the disabled community and when it comes to fulfilling the core needs to make their life easier. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Delegate Reed, you're up next with this question on affordable housing. Never heard about it in Loudoun, right?
Yeah, no, thank you. I do want to just take a second because I've made several references to the budget. And at some point in time, you have to transition from campaigning to governing, and governing is really very hard. And you have to make difficult Solomon-like decisions in the budget every day. And let me just give you an example. The things that are going on right now in Congress has cut approximately $330 billion in Department of Education funding across the nation that will flow down in some portion to Virginia. And it is going to have an impact on our budget of somewhere between $50 million and $3 billion a year. So we're not talking about small change. And it's really difficult when you are dealing with all of these competing interests, but it's real easy to say, oh, well, you should just use the budget for this or you should use the budget for that. When there are serious cuts happening at the federal level that are going to flow down to the state level, and we're going to have to make difficult decisions. Now, on housing particularly, this is something that is not just an issue that affects the disability community. This affects everybody right now. We have an issue where we have a shortfall of affordable housing stock, and it's going to require a level of effort. And I've already been working with the Loudoun Chamber, with realtors, the Builders Association, local government, state government. It's going to require a multi-leveled approach to be able to address this because, again, whether you are disabled or not, you don't have, there's not enough houses in the inventory, which then drives up the cost of them and makes it completely unaffordable for people to be able to live in Loudoun County or Northern Virginia. And that's not acceptable. And so it's going to take a real concerted effort. And that's the reason why I say governing is really very hard because you can make glib campaign statements that you're going to fix everything, and then you find out just how difficult it is. And so I will tell you that this is an issue that I'm committed to. I know Marty is, and I know the rest of us have been working hard on being able to address this, and we will address it not only for the disabled community, but for the community at large.
Thank you so much. You're right. This is an area where the need is big. Delegate Martinez, I think you just got teed up there anyway. Your thoughts here on the affordable housing need?
Well, I say ditto to everything that Delegate Reed said. We have been talking about this for the last 2 years and how we can get this done. It is going to be very difficult. But also, we need to change affordable to attainable. Everybody has a different perspective of what affordable is. And we want to make sure that people can attain it. Now, there are a couple of solutions that I feel we could do. There's all kinds of solutions, but I will mention two of them. First is to increase the funds in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which will help increase the number of units if available for those who need housing, but also reopening the state rental assistance program, which helps offset the cost of housing. Now, the problem is we're going to throw that to David and his appropriations committee and let them figure out where we're going to find the money to fund those. It's a huge budget issue that we're going to have to figure it out if we want to implement these. The thing is if we're going to fund something, a program, then there's some program that's going to lose the funding. So it's a real balancing act on how we're going to do this. Another critical step is making application for housing assistance more accessible. This includes having the forms written in plain language, but also having contracts available via email, phone, and in person to answer questions about the applications. So, and again, this is not something that you can just wish for. You're going to have to really work and figure out how are we going to implement it, and can we do it overnight? No, it's going to take a while, and we're going to need to support everybody to get this done and get it done right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And candidate Scott Thomas, your thoughts here on the housing needs.
I don't disagree with either of the points that were made around housing. There is always a priority, there's always appropriation, but there's disabilities have been around for a while. And the idea that we are still in an idea of understanding how we can and what we can do when we should be doing, right? So, this is all comes back down to the employment piece, right? Without employment, without appropriate mechanisms in place, there's not going to be affordable housing, right? And especially in this area in District 29, there is already an affordable housing issue, which has been a result of all the influx of everything that has come into the community. But we also need to consider what we need to be doing to support the development of housing in alignment with the employment. So we need to focus on that accessibility from the start. We need to be able to ensure that whatever housing we do build is appropriated as part of a development structure. We need to incorporate integrated units into new developments. And we need to start and focus on the possibility of pairing rental assistance or optional supports with home aids and smart technology. This is already seen across our veterans environment where corporations are going out and funding these organizations to support the development of these facilities. And now we're saying that we don't have our own funding at a government level to support our own citizens. Maybe we need to consider being some type of privatized funding. But the idea is that we're the ones in the chair to make the decisions. And it's not about the policy. It's about what we promise. And if we focus on trying to invest in inclusive housing and inclusive employment, this is the way we get there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll lastly pass the mic back to Delegate Higgins for his thoughts on affordable housing for the disability community.
Yeah, thank you. I want to be clear. I understand what the question is. The question is how would the General Assembly address these affordable housing needs? Is that correct?
That's exactly it.
Okay, I didn't want to go off on something else. I think the best option is to find ways for people with disabilities to stay with family members or loved ones, and whether that's tax breaks or other tax credits, I think that would be one option that we should explore, because I think those people, because they are family and loved ones, are going to get the best care there. I'd also support tax incentives for landlords to rent to individuals in the disability community, as well as partnerships to make clear what low rent housing is available and when and where, and look at ways to expand on some of the other funds around. I think that Delegate Martinez mentioned, and others. So I think there are things we can do. We need to have a all hands on deck look at the solutions.
No question. This is a everyone come to the table time. So I'll give candidates one last chance at the microphone tonight just for closing remarks, anything they wanted to speak to tonight that they haven't, or another point they want to drive home. And the last word first goes to Delegate Reed.
Thank you again, Lucy, and thank you so much for hosting this event. I think that I have been able to attend every year that we have done this, and I'm so grateful that you do this, because it does help to be able to highlight the issues of the disability community. And I think the one thing that I want you to take away from this is that we have made a lot of progress over the last 8 years, and both with policies, things like the seclusion and the seclusion and the restraint legislation. We've made a tremendous amount of progress on being able to now fully fund all of the Priority 1 disability waivers. and to increase the waiver provider rates. But I am also fully aware of the fact that we have a lot more to do. And I think that you have my commitment and the commitment of Delegate Martinez and the others that we will continue to work on this just as strongly as we have in the past several years. And so, again, I'm grateful to be here and looking forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you so much. And Delegate Martinez, we'd love to hear from you now. Closing remarks.
Well, first, I want to thank Sharon Connor. And Connor, thank you for your intro. I really appreciate the fact that you're here and you're participating. Lucy, I want to thank you and the rest for having this forum. I've always been a big supporter of the ARC, and I will continue to do so. And having this forum and sharing my evening with you, I really appreciate that. One of the things that I want to mention that I haven't was we have an open door policy, and that's something I take very seriously. Our door is open to everyone and anybody. It's critical that we, as elected officials, engage with our constituents, and it doesn't matter who you are. If you contact me, and we will respond. And also, the other thing is that we don't, we some of our best legislation and our ideas come from you. And we need your input. We need you to help us find that path that provides the solutions for our disabled community. And I have the same phone number that I've had for all of 32 years that I've lived in Loudoun County. And I always answer it. And if I'm on the phone, I'll always get back to you on it. So please, if there's a piece of legislation that's been enacted that you want to comment on, or if there's legislation you think that we could a policy or something that we can work on, act on, contact us. Let us know. We need to hear. We need to hear from you. Thanks.
Thank you for that offer, and you have come to the right place because this community is filled with great ideas on how to improve disability policy. So, candidate Scott Thomas, your final word tonight.
Well, Lucy and Sharon, I want to thank you for the time leading up to this and being part of this panel. It's been a great experience, and I've appreciated the views of everybody and sharing comments across the group. Either way, we're all going to be working together in one form or fashion to make things happen. But in my view, that sometimes it's a little passionate, but like I said, I have a background in some of this, and I become passionate around some of the things that we do. But it's all about dignity, opportunity, and shaping the community. And whether it's kids having access with disabilities to education or expanding the housing, it's all a matter of being inclusive, right? And that future won't exist unless we can do it. So I'm empowering the people, and that's going to include us all fighting for policies and the rights of citizens with a disability. So I'm here to support the community. I'm here to support District 29, and I'm here to work with our leaders to ensure that we are measured by our commitment and our response to the community, as well as allowing everybody to thrive in the community that we've created. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the time you spent with us tonight and the work you put in getting ready for the evening. And we'll now ask Delegate Higgins his final thoughts for tonight.
First, I want to thank you all for hosting this candidates forum. It's very helpful for us to hear from you. And to me, this isn't a one and done. This is work that's ongoing, and it's living up to the simple belief that every Virginian deserves the chance to live, work, learn, and thrive in their community, no exceptions. The stuff we're talking about here is key responsibility of government, and too often we focus on a lot of other things before we take care of the disability community, and that's not acceptable. So I'm always here to help. My door is always open. As the father of a child with a disability, I'm very familiar with some of these things, and know some of the challenges that you come up against. So I want to thank the Arc of Virginia and the Loudoun and Fauquier families you represent for being the voice, the conscience, and the heart of this community. I also want to thank Connor for always keeping me on my toes and coming to see me in Richmond, and all the hard work that he does alongside with his mom, Sharon. I'm honored to partner with you guys and listen to you all and to continue working together to make sure that our Commonwealth is a place where every person has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Like I said, my office is always open. And I need you guys to keep me on my toes at the General Assembly, because things often move fast, and you know about bills and issues that may be not on the desk of the General Assembly members yet. So thank you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much for always having an open door and open ear for us. And lastly tonight, Candidate Butt, your final closing remarks.
As they say, save the best for the last. So can I say, right? All right, this is Lamir, but first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. It was fantastic to interact with you guys, and also get different thoughts from different people on the call. Secondly, as I stated in the beginning as well, I look forward to having the opportunity, if I was to win this race, to work with everyone and work across the aisle as well. And I encourage everyone on the call and not on the call as well to have the ability to work across the aisle. It's about people that we are here for, not politics. So I encourage that. Secondly, to be able to have the opportunity where we can make a difference in people's life, that includes people with a disability as well. It's a it's you can't put it in words. So how do we use that opportunity is completely on us. So I suggest that people who weren't able to make it to the call as well, they continue to share a commitment that was shared and during this call. In terms of the my race, as I'm running for state delegate is 26. But my priorities include focusing on jobs and growing small businesses, lowering cost, and focusing on world-class education and healthcare and privacy for kids. So all these subjects, one way or another, affect people in disability community as well. So my commitment is there, and when I have these priorities set up, they are not for some communities and some not. They're for all. So I want to make sure that you guys know and people of disability community know that if God gives me the opportunity to serve, you will not be left behind. And lastly, Connor and Sharon, I know I told you this on a personal note as well, so I'm not jumping in the bandwagon and say thank you, but it's important for every community to be able to shine. And both of you are inspiring many people with disability that, there's no limit that what we cannot do. And I really, really admire that. And I told you that on a personal level as well, that, what you guys are doing, from a mother's perspective, Sharon, you're very supportive. And that shows that, to other mothers and fathers that, if when there's a child with special needs, we don't leave them behind because other child are normal and they don't have that much of a need. No, we pick up all of them because you don't know what their capabilities are because God has given them endless capabilities. They might be disabled in some fashion, but they might be able to make up for that in other ways. So thank you. Kudos to Sharon. And Connor, you continue to push the envelope, okay? And you don't know how many people you're inspiring. Yes, I hope you're looking, and I'm talking to you, buddy. Continue to inspire folks. And there will be a lot of other Connors behind you looking up to you saying, maybe you won't get to see them or hear from them, but they would be saying, like, if he can do it, I can do it too. So thank you.
Thank you. There is no question Sharon and Connor are the gold standard. We want to thank the candidates and their staff for the many hours they spent meeting with us and preparing for tonight, and for their efforts campaigning, which is what makes our democracy strong. We're going to add the chance for Sharon and Connor to give one final note to us tonight. I can't think of anyone better to close us out.
Thank you for your participating. I heard good thoughts. When it comes to criminal justice training, education is so important. Not responding with force de-escalate the situation. We may react in ways, but you don't understand that how the police react matters. We need to do all that we can to do better. Your responses gives us hope. We all should feel safe. Caregivers are like angels. We need to pay them more, open up doors, and give them opportunity to bring in more. You answer many questions more than any other forum. You were all thoughtful and detailed in your response. Thank you very much and have a magical evening, everyone.
Thank you all. Stay magical. Have a good night.
Thank you, Lucy. Thanks, everyone.
God bless you. Good luck, everyone. Bye.